This podcast is a proud member of the Unidentified Network.
Police in Las Vegas found themselves in the middle of a UFO mystery last month after
To us. Big eyes, they have big eyes.
911, what are you reporting?
We got someone or something crawling around out here.
Did you see what it was? Was it a person or an animal? Or?
One of my partners.
And welcome back to the Mythical Legends podcast. Happy Sunday to you all. And finally, it is a sunny day. So me and Chris have decided to wear sunglasses today. How are you, Chris?
Not bad, mate. How about you?
Yes, mate. I am very well. Busy as normal, but well. How has your week been?
Busy, in the grown-up world.
So today we have a fantastic podcast lined up for you. We have another Small Town Monsters member today that will be joining us. And then we have our fun fact of the week as normal. And then we will have our podcast of the week later today. Now, Chris, I will pass this over to you. Fun fact of the week, here we come.
So we're back to Australia again this week because I like comparing the different cryptoids around the world and how similar they are to each other. So the Hawkesbury River monster, and it's in New South Wales, and it's a river. It's a monster river. Now, it's called as the Hawkesbury River monster, but it's known as the Mooney monster, and they've been reporting sightings of this since the 1800s. But Aboriginal rock art in the region have the Mooley Wonk, which dates back more than 3,000 years. Now, it refers to a sea monster, grey with large eel-like body, elongated head, 4 flippers, and a thick tail. And they think it's been floating around since the Jurassic era. We haven't seen anything. We haven't caught one yet, obviously, but it just strikes me how closely that resembles the Loch Ness monster.
Wow. Hold on. So would you repeat that description a minute? So 4 flippers, did you say?
They refer to the sea monster as grey with large eel-like body, elongated head, 4 flippers, and a thick tail. And they've got evidence of it from dinosaur era, fossils and that sort of stuff. But people have been seeing it.
Wow. Well, yeah, that's almost similar to Loch Ness, as you said at the end. Well, fantastic. Well, there you go. That is our fun fact of the week. And remember, keep jotting these down because, as Chris said about a couple of weeks ago, you'll be tested at the end of term. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we have a fantastic guest that we are going to bring on today. And we are going to have a fantastic discussion with this person. So please welcome to the stage, Heather from Small Town Monsters.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Hi, Heather.
No problem, Heather. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Yes, busy as normal, but can't wait to get into this podcast. So I'll dive straight in then. What cryptid do you investigate the most, and what cryptid do you like investigating the most?
Well, I would say that far and away, Bigfoot is the one that we investigate the most because that's just the most content we have at STM, and that's my job to do the research and reach out to witnesses and stuff. So Bigfoot, with a close second being Dogman. And Dogman is pretty heavy on my mind right now because we are getting ready to start filming Dawn of the Dogman. And so I'm into looking up Michigan contacts right now. So that between that and filming stuff here in Ohio for Bigfoot, those two are preoccupied for me. As far as like favorites, I don't know. I guess maybe Bigfoot, just because that one seems closer to home. I hope there's no dogmen around here, but there are dogman reports in the area. Just hopefully not as close as the Bigfoot ones for me.
So you brought up Small Town Monsters then. So how did you get involved with Small Town Monsters?
So Seth's first movie that he made with Small Town Monsters was Minerva Monster. I actually live in Minerva now, but I grew up in a town very close, like the next town over. And it didn't take long when he announced that he was making this film for news to get around in this small town that there's going to be a documentary about Bigfoot coming out, and it's about home. So that got my attention. I had already been interested in the subject, so I kept an eye on Small Town Monsters from Minerva Monster forward and went to a couple premieres at the Canton Palace Theater, and became friends with Seth online around the time of Mothman of Point Pleasant's release. And during one of the premieres, he had mentioned that they were getting ready to do the Bell Witch. And I had already been doing research independently on the Bell Witch for another project that I was working on. And so I had reached out to him and I said, hey, if you ever need a researcher for anything, let me know. I've already done research on this topic and I would love to get back into doing weird stuff all the time. And he said, actually, that would be helpful. We do need a researcher. And so he brought me on and I started. Actually, the first project I worked on was Momo, the Missouri Monster. And my job at that point was to just find names and contact info for people that could potentially be interviewed. And it's morphed from that to now I am the chief creative officer and help run the publishing company. So
Nice.
things have grown exponentially since then.
Wow. And so you kind of touched upon it at the beginning, but before Small Town Monsters kind of came in and you got involved with them, what kind of research were you doing before that?
So I was looking into, so I was looking into cursed objects, but letters that are associated with cursed objects. So I was looking into the Bell Witch legend specifically because there's a Bell Witch cave in Tennessee that is a tourist attraction. It's on the old Bell Farm, and people go to the cave and pick up rocks and bring rocks home with them. And then all kinds of bad things happen. And so they mail the rocks back. And when they mail the rocks back, they have a letter of apology or regret, and asking that the owner put the rock back where it came from in hopes that it would break the curse that they supposedly brought upon themselves. And I was looking at the similarities in the letters specifically between the cursed objects at the Bell Witch Cave and then other places around the U.S. Where people have taken things that they shouldn't have, or also like Robert the Doll, people taking a picture with Robert the Doll without asking permission, things like that. And I presented at a conference in Wales that was dealing with letter and letter writing at the time. And that was my in for that conference, was to talk about letters related to cursed objects.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, I think there's a warning there, isn't there? Go to a haunted place, don't take stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, do you really need to be told that? I mean, no.
Well, you would think at the Bell Witch Cave, when you go there and you get into the little gift shop where you buy your tickets to go to the cave and stuff, they have the letters on display on the wall. So it's there. It's a warning. They let you know. Don't
like
do
a disclaimer. It. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Right? Yeah.
Wow. On to you, Chris.
Yeah. The Bell Witch. I have heard of her, but not many people on this side of the pond have. Would you give us a little bit of background on who she was?
Sure, absolutely. So in 1817, the Bell family, which was living in Tennessee at the time, they had just moved from North Carolina, moved to Tennessee. They'd started to have really weird activity on their property. And the weird activity started with things like the children seeing a giant, oversized bird, Thunderbird, if you will. The father, John Bell, seeing what he described as a dog with a rabbit's head in the field that he promptly shot at, and then it just disappeared. That then led into the family hearing scratching and gnawing on bedposts at night, and then they would light their lanterns to see what it was, and there would be nothing there. Scratching on the walls, banging on the walls. Betsy Bell, their daughter, would report getting her hair pulled or getting pinched. They would feel, poltergeist activity. They would feel the sheets being pulled off the bed and so on. And this had gone on for some time, and they eventually invited their neighbor over to kind of say, check this out, make sure that we're not crazy, sort of thing. And the neighbor experienced some of the poltergeist activity and then demanded that this entity show itself. And when he did that, that's when whispering began, and then eventually talking, disembodied voices came about. And eventually this spirit or whatever it was, it went through several iterations, claiming to be a handful of different things, but ultimately they end up calling the witch, they call it the Bell Witch, Kate, because at one point she says that she was Kate Batts's witch. Kate Batts was a neighbor that they had a dispute with, and she claims, one of her claims was that she was summoned by the neighbor. So anyway, that's how she became the Bell Witch. And she continued to torture the family. It got very physical with John Bell in particular, and Betsy, the daughter, to the point that John Bell would have fits of like his tongue swelling, issues with his mouth, breathing, things like that. And by 1820, December 20th, 1820, after not doing well and falling ill, John Bell died. And beside the bed, they found a little vial with black liquid in it, and supposedly the disembodied voice came forward and said, "I fixed him finally. I fixed Jack real good." And they saw the vial, and the story goes that they gave a drop of whatever the liquid was to the cat, and the cat promptly died. So they're guessing he was poisoned. But she claimed that she did it, and then at the funeral was singing praises and joyously behaving and so on at his funeral. She continued to torture the daughter through the next year, and basically ruined the engagement that the daughter had with a boy that she loved very much. She essentially told her that if she continued the relationship with this boy, that she was going to kill him like she killed the father. And so Betsy broke off the engagement, and then eventually married someone else and moved away to Mississippi. But at the end of 1821, she said that she would be back in 7 years. The story goes that she did come back, and she talked with the oldest son, John Bell Jr., and gave him like prophetic visions that she had and predicted things. And I don't know exactly how many of them came true, but then after she gave all these predictions, she said she would be back in another 100 years. There was nothing really to substantiate that she came back 100 years after that. But since then, there's been activity around that area. The farm has since, like when John Bell died, the farm was distributed amongst the children in different parcels of land. And one parcel of that land has the cave on it, and they have poltergeist activity on that section of land to this day.
So present day then, as you were about to go on to, so has anyone witnessed some similar stuff?
Yes. So the current owner, Chris Kirby is her name. When I went down to visit, one of the times that I went down to visit the area, she spoke to me about things that have been going on since she bought the property in the 90s, I believe. things from stuff moving around the house, hearing things in the house, to being scratched, to at one point she saw people outside of her house, and I forget how she described the dress, but it was in like a different time period type dress that she saw, a couple men in the back, and I don't know, just it hasn't been overly off-putting for her, aside from the time that she got scratched that I'm aware of, but it hasn't been like she hasn't been tortured like John Bell was by any means.
Right.
Yeah.
But then the people that go to the cave, it's reported that particularly men will get harassed more than women. Especially men that come in there and are very brash in their behavior. They tend to get chased out somehow, or get pinched or smacked or whatever while they're in the cave. So stuff still does happen. Even places that aren't the cave specifically. There's a local school, which is the old Bell School, that has like a little town museum, because this is an extremely small town, like a stop sign. That's it. There's no lights or anything like that. This school holds a little town museum, and in there, and the city hall and whatnot. It's a multi-purpose building, but they have gotten things returned to them, such as they sell the books that talk about the Bell Witch, and people have bought the books, brought them home. Bad things have happened. They've sent the books back. People have picked up pieces from that property and sent it back as well. So it's not just the parcel of land with the cave on it that has activity at the time. So yeah, stuff still happens.
So
just, she obviously had a thing for John, but now she's just, everybody just not quite as vicious.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So kind of obviously this is a massive kind of legend, let's say. So in your mind, what do you think this thing is?
I have no idea what in the world this thing would be, because it has elements of poltergeist activity, obviously, but then there's a story where she reacts to someone threatening her with a silver bullet, which is more like a witch type of response. You don't really hear silver as being a bane of ghosts necessarily, but like witches or werewolves, of course, things like that. So that has an element of more witchcraft related, but then modern day stories about things that people are seeing, they see all kinds of iterations, like full-bodied apparitions that come in all different shapes and sizes. Then you wonder if it's more of an elemental thing, something tied to the land. I don't know what it is. I'm not even sure that it's always the same thing, so much as there may be a lot of things happening on that property at once.
I think it's really hard. We probably shouldn't try so hard to classify the paranormal, because it's so diverse. It's difficult to put everything in its own box. You know.
So it's really funny, because we never hear about stuff like this. So kind of sitting here listening to that story is really, really interesting. And say, Chris, do we have anything like that here in the UK, or because not to my knowledge?
Yeah, no, we do have stuff like that, but when it comes down to cold-blooded murder, it's more common that the victim is haunting people. But historically, witches, forever. A classic one from my neck of the woods was a woman that was accused of being a witch. What did she do? She famously would, if you had an injury, an open injury, she would put old cobwebs on it and then mutter a spell. And so everybody assumed she was a witch. But of course, the mold that grows on an old cobweb is penicillin. So of course it worked. How she found that out, I don't know. Maybe she was a witch. But yeah, we have witches going back centuries. Yeah.
Wow. And so kind of staying on this topic then, have you ever had any experiences with anything in the paranormal?
Yeah. A handful of things, actually. So I go out on investigations, paranormal investigations, and have for a few years now, and have seen a handful of things from shadow figures to hearing footsteps, things like that. But probably the most unnerving thing was when I was at a place called Mansfield Reformatory or Ohio State Reformatory. It's where Shawshank Redemption, if you've ever seen the movie,
Oh yeah.
where Shawshank Redemption was filmed.
Mhm.
That building is open for paranormal investigations and daytime tours and things like that. So went there for an overnight investigation and went to a room called the West Attic, which this is an interior room. There are no windows. The only way, it's just a singular door to get into this room, this very long room that at one point housed very violent criminals, because the local penitentiary had burned down and they needed a place to send all of the inmates. So they sent some of them to Mansfield Reformatory, which was not initially intended for violent criminals. It was for the lesser crimes where they could reform them and send them out in the community. So they didn't want these highly violent criminals to mingle with the regular, so to speak, criminals. And they threw them all in the West Attic and kind of shut the door and let them be on their own. The guards didn't even want to go in the room, whatever. So that room is known for a lot of activity in that what's commonly described are like orbs of light, various colors of light going across the room when all the lights are out, things like that. So the group that I was with, we decided that we would go in there and turn all the lights off and just wait for the orbs of light, which did happen. We did see different colors of light flash around the room. And we would ask each other, are you seeing that? Okay, what color are you seeing? You know, trying to verify that we're seeing the same thing. But that part wasn't unnerving. The unnerving part was that eventually, after we were in there several minutes, what ended up manifesting at the end of the room was like the reverse of a shadow figure. It was a being, but it was made of light. Not a super bright light, but enough that you could make out arms, legs, torso, head, everything. It wouldn't pick up on my phone camera or anything like that, but it would pace back and forth, and it did, like, it was more like a glow almost. It was bright enough that when it would walk over by the wall, you could tell it was by the wall because the wall would light up.
Oh,
It would pace back and forth. It would walk closer to us. When it got close, it would drop down on all fours and like crawl at you, which I was not a fan of. And that was probably the most unnerved that I've been. It repeated, we were able to repeat this like experiment or whatever, multiple times throughout the night. We would leave and come back, and then it would manifest again, and it would seemingly interact with us. And I had told that story on several podcasts over the years, and then I was fortunate enough to be able to go back with a couple friends, probably a year ago at this point, and they had heard the story, so they wanted to go to the West Attic to see if this thing would manifest again. And sure enough, it did. So even years later, it's still there. Since then, I've talked with people who run the paranormal investigations, and they said that other people have seen it as well, but they've nicknamed it the Glimmer Man because it glimmers.
mhm.
So I have no idea what that is. I've not experienced anything like it since then, or anywhere else, I should say. I can't think of anything in folklore that is just a being of light that shows up like that. But it was, I mean, it was a full-sized person looking thing walking in the dark. So yeah, I have that experience that I have no explanation for. I don't know what it was. But
And
I've seen it multiple times.
it was a unpleasant experience. I mean,
It was because it shouldn't exist. And as much as I believe in this stuff, still seeing it is a whole
mm,
different ball game than believing in it.
mhm.
I having that walking in front of me and then coming closer to me, I was just terrified because it didn't do anything. I mean, it's not like there were even any sounds associated with it. It was just this figure.
Just,
Um, but it shouldn't exist. So what am I seeing? And if that exists, then what else exists? Like,
Yeah, what can't you
it's
see? Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So yeah,
Wow.
it just really messed with me.
Well, I think that is a great point to end on. So I'm gonna put the advert on. I must say I apologize for this advert. You might want to remove your headphones for this advert. Okay, guys, I will see you after the break.
For half an hour on Saturday afternoons and for a quarter of an hour on Wednesday evenings. The world's only show about hard science, weird shit and surreality. And it's co-presented by an anthropomorphic chicken. Be there or be square.
Told you.
She looks suitably shocked.
So Heather, kind of coming off of that topic now.
Mhm.
So, could you tell us about some of the experiences that you've had whilst filming documentaries and some of the documentaries that you film with SDM?
So as far as like active experiences that are of the weird nature while filming with small town monsters, the biggest thing was whenever we were filming a series on YouTube called Sasquatch Unearthed, The Ridge. It was because we have multiple iterations of Sasquatch Unearthed, but The Ridge specifically, it was our first one that we did. We were up on the Chestnut Ridge, which is in southwestern PA, and it's known to be the home of high strangeness. All kinds of weird things occur there. And we saw orbs of light while we were filming. Normally when filming, you're so busy worrying about the camera and doing interviews and things like that that I'm not sure, aside from something manifesting in front of you like the lights did or something smacking you upside the head, that you're going to notice much because everybody's talking and there's so much noise. But um that was the time that we actually had activity, and we caught some of it on camera, um which is in the show as well. But then the other thing, because we film all kinds of weird topics, but the other thing is that shortly after moving here to this farm, um which is a family farm, my husband grew up here, and then we had moved away for a while, and now we're back here at this farm, this family farm. Shortly after we moved in here, there was some really weird things happening on the property, and like I heard a howl that was characteristic of what is known as the Ohio howl. It was in response to me playing the Ohio howl. To be fair, I feel like I antagonized it a little bit. But there was a response. There was tree breaking. And then what really kind of sent me over the edge to say something to Seth was that I had, when we first moved here, it's like 300 acres of land here, and it's a mix between fields and forest. So I had taken different crystals that I own and hid them around the farm, like in the woods, because I thought, I've got 3 children, and I thought, how cool would it be when they go to explore stuff that they come across a pile of crystals or, whatever, like a treasure hunt sort of thing. So after hearing the howls and the tree breaks, I had gone out to one of the places that I had kept the crystals, and one of my crystals was gone, and in its place was a deer vertebrae. Just a single bone sitting in the place of that crystal. So I called Seth immediately, and I'm like, this has happened, and I don't know what to think. And I'm telling him things. I told him about the howls as well, but he said, don't pick it up. And I'm like, too late, I'm already holding it. He's like, but anyway, so then he said, well, I want to come out, I'm bringing a camera, we're going to see what happens. And that was the beginning of the Bigfoot Project, which was a series that we ran on YouTube probably 3 years ago now. And weird stuff happened during the recording there. I think it's episode 1, actually, where Seth and I are out, and we can hear multiple, it sounded like at least 2. We're assuming Sasquatch running around us, throwing rocks at us. Seth had a sighting while they were filming B-roll the one day. They were out on the gator going across the farm through an open field, and they went by a clear cut, and Seth saw one like pop up and run into the woods. Unfortunately, I wasn't with him. I was at the house with our children at the time, Seth's son Tommy, and then my children. And when he came back to the house, he was freaking out because he's like, I saw one. I finally saw one. And I'm like, doggone it, I didn't. But we heard them around, and we found a footprint the one day after rain, and it looked like a knuckle print, as if it slid on the hillside because it was going uphill, like it lost its footing and went to catch itself. So we found that, except unfortunately we don't really know how to cast things, and so the cast is very poorly done. But we had pictures, and that's all on camera as well. So that was some weird stuff that happened there. But normally when we're out filming like movies and stuff, we're on such an abbreviated timeline. We only have 3 to 5 days to film, and it's a lot of stuff to pack into a small amount of time. So there's not a lot of investigation happening, so to speak.
And say I could probably say that we're also the ones that are very few to actually experience that filming kind of schedule where we myself, Chris, and the team actually got to Seattle, Washington, and we got in the Olympic National Forest. We had some great stuff happen, but there was a point where he said we really want to keep going, but we can't. We have to come back down from the ridge and do interviews. So sometimes it can be a real pain filming schedules. But yeah, we totally get what you mean. So Chris, I will chuck it back to you, mate.
On that, when you're filming and something happens, and then the film crew are like, oh no, we need to go do this now, and you're like, no, you could go do it. I'm sitting here. Thanks. See you later. Yeah. Yeah. And I did that. We were talking. I can't say when. The casting is gonna become a thing of the past, which in some ways is unfortunate because it's a bit of a skill, but you've all got apps on your iPhones now with LiDAR on, and you can do a 3D scan of the footprint, and it's fantastic. Me and Daniel played with it in the forest near here with some different footprints, dog footprints, and other random things. You can then get that on a computer and zoom in and twist it around, and it actually gives you a better thing. But there is nothing better than actually holding physical evidence in your hand. There is, that there is, and to actually hold something that you are 100% sure that a Bigfoot or something similar has touched, if it's a footprint or a seed shell or, like a seed pod or the deer vertebrae, just being able to kind of comparable to when you used to receive a letter. Now you get an email, but you used to receive a letter and you'd have in your hand something that the person sending it had actually touched as well. But I think the LiDAR thing on your camera is going to make casting a little obsolete.
And I also think the difference between myself and a lot of other researchers is my grandmother is the one that does a lot of the research with me. And we found two deer jawbones stabbed into the ground. So we took them out, and I found bite marks in them. I said, "Nan, that's going over you, and that's going to go in your fridge." and that's exactly what happened, which was quite funny. But so kind of moving on then. So when I read your bio, it says that you're an author. Would you be able to explain a little bit about that and a little bit about your book?
So I have written short stories and articles that have been published. I haven't written a full book yet, but I have been published in the first, third, fifth, and now the seventh, which just came out, edition of the Feminine Macabre on various topics. And then I've had various short stories published and other articles published as well. There was an article that was published in a zine out of Ireland recently about the Rougarou. This latest edition of the Feminine Macabre discusses the life and contributions of Joan Jeffers, who was a cryptozoologist out of PA that often gets forgotten. So trying to keep her memory going a little bit and things like that. So I'm always writing short stories and articles and trying to get them out there as much as possible, and currently working on an actual book, but haven't released many details on that. So
Nice. I will throw the torch back to you, Mr. Alsford.
Thank you. So as usual, time has run away with us, and I'm a little gutted because I wanted to really talk about Dogmen, but you've got me off down the rabbit hole with a Glimmer Man, because I'm kind of thinking, well, you went into a really nasty place that probably had a lot of imprints left from the violence that was probably committed in there. And I'm wondering, was the Glimmer Man there protecting you from the baddies? I don't know, because it's not something you hear about, right? A light, a apparition made of light.
right.
Yeah. Have
That's
you
the point.
thought of that before, or have I just thrown you in at the deep end there?
That's the first time I thought of that way. Because you're right. It's something that is definitely different. And like I said, the best way for me to describe it is it's like a shadow figure, but in reverse. It's light instead of shadow. And normally the shadow figures seem more ominous. So maybe there is something that is a protection from that entity. I don't know. I had never thought of it that way. No.
So that's something actually that I'll point out then, going back to that. So you said that you had every time you went in there, you had someone or multiple people with you. Am I right in saying
Yes. Oh yeah. I did not go by myself.
that? So did those guys see the same thing that you were saying?
Yes. And this was a situation where we were, rather than saying, "Oh my gosh, do you see it walking to the left or to the right?" we would say, "What do you see?" And then the person next to you would say, "Oh, it's walking over to the right, or it's walking to the left, or it just crawled at us, or whatever." So that was how we kind of, and we did the same thing with the lights that we saw in the room. Do you see anything? Yes, I see a purple light. Okay, I see a purple light too. Things like that, because we didn't want to feed into each other. But
Okay. Wow. Well, at some point, it's really interesting to go, right, so you've all seen this thing. So the next question that goes to my head is, number one, why was this thing there? And two, why would it show up in front of you in that form?
I don't know. The things I've thought as well and have not been able to come to a conclusion.
I don't think we're going to find the solution for you, not without visiting the place. You up for it, Daniel?
Yeah, let's go. I'll book the flights after this.
Night 1 in the cave, night 2 in the asylum, right?
So this brings me to my last question, Heather. It's been an amazing podcast, and actually we've gone off and on some really, really interesting topics that I didn't expect to go off on, which is quite good. The podcast that I love doing is the ones that say, I always say to everyone, I'm not in the paranormal, and I'm Bigfoot. I'm a Bigfoot guy, and me and Chris always go, well, no, Bigfoot one, brilliant. But there's those occasions that are very, very different, and that's the podcast that will always be kind of stick in our memory. Go, that one was really, really good because we talked about that story. So I think we've really enjoyed it. So my last question for you, Heather, is where can everyone find your work? Where can everyone find STM, that kind of stuff?
So smalltownmonsters.com is our website. You can go to YouTube and look up Small Town Monsters. Streaming platforms, you can find us on there, like Amazon. Of course, we have the publishing company as well, which you can see all the books that we've published on Amazon, as well as our website. Small Town Monsters is on Facebook, Instagram, X, I believe, although I'm not on there. If you want to follow me personally, you can email me, heather@smalltownmonsters.com. I am on Facebook under Heather Moser. I'm one of the many named Heather Moser on Facebook, or you can go to Instagram and follow me at Pagan Historian.
Wow, amazing. Well, Heather, we have really enjoyed this discussion. And say, Chris, is there anything else before we go on to the podcast of the week?
Can you please come back again so we talk about Dogman?
Yes, absolutely.
I think we need to do a special on Dogmen because
Part 2.
Yeah, no, I mean, because there's so many people seeing them, so many people researching them, and it's kind of like not enough people realize how much work's going into that, and I was fully looking forward to that today, and we blew it.
Yeah, next time we'll do it next time.
Definitely. So to everyone out there, we are now going to get going on podcast of the week. Thank you so much, Heather, and we shall see you very, very soon. Here we go, podcast of the week. Podcast of the week is That Bigfoot podcast presented by Brian King Sharp and Wayne. They are very, very two good friends of mine, and Brian also runs the Sasquatch Odyssey podcast, and it is an amazing podcast if you wanted to go and listen to it on Spotify and lots more. Well, Chris, I can say, mate, for 100%, I did not expect that.
No, and I'm really interested in this cave.
Yeah.
I don't want to take anything. I just want to go see it.
And I'm really because I came onto the podcast actually expecting to talk about, but I'm like, let's just let this go because I really want to see and hear what the story's about, because as you said right at the beginning, here in the UK we don't hear about that often, do we?
No, not those kind of places. I guess we're a little bit blunt to it because it's kind of thing that we do have history of, but that's quite ferocious. That's quite nasty, and I want to see if I'm one of those men that gets slapped or tickled. Not gonna pull my hair anyway, so.
That is funny. So to everyone out there, I hope you have really enjoyed this podcast, and if you have, don't forget to go and check out the Small Town Monsters website, or if you wanted to go and chat to Heather, then make sure you do. So if you have enjoyed this podcast, make sure to like and subscribe to our Mythical Legends YouTube channel, and we're also streaming on Spotify, Amazon, Apple Podcasts, and more. So if you are on a long drive, or if you're on like a dog walk or something, then you definitely listen to our audio podcast. And don't forget that the Mythical Legends team will be running the Cryptid Conference UK on May 30th, 31st, and 1st of June with two amazing guest headliners, Ryan RPG Goldenbesky from Finding Bigfoot and Expedition Bigfoot, and Ronnie LeBlanc from Expedition Bigfoot and Paranormal Caught on Camera. So if you wanted to visit our website to see where I am going to be this year and where the team is going to be this year, then you can go and visit the Mythical Legends website at mythicallegends.co.uk. And we have some new upcoming exciting things with Summit View Studios, so you can go and check out our Facebook page on there as well. So here we go. The last words of the podcast are: keep searching, stay mythical, and most importantly, stay safe out there, guys. Thank you, and here comes the outro.